Support for this podcast comes from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, connecting communities with the resources, infrastructure, and networks to ensure a vibrant local free press.
From KVPR in Fresno, this is Central Valley Daily. Happy Friday, it's November 22nd. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. This week, a bomb cyclone hit the Pacific Northwest. It brought strong winds and heavy rain.
You only get a storm like this in terms of strength or intensity every 10 years or so. This is a really strong storm.
While those of us a little further south were spared, we won't be completely dry. We'll hear more in just a few minutes, but first, today's headlines. Governor Gavin Newsom's making a promise to, quote, leave no region behind. As KVPR's Esther Quintanilla reports, he was in Fresno on Thursday to announce a new statewide economic push with a major focus in the central San Joaquin Valley.
Newsom is no stranger to making stops in the valley when he's announcing state investments. On Thursday, he stopped at the West Fresno City College campus to do it again. He said the investment is part of a years-long project aimed at boosting jobs in different trades in 13 regions in the state, including some of the most rural in the valley.
I'm deeply prideful of this. I've been looking forward to this. You don't even know for how long.
Newsom was joined by Ashley Swearingen, CEO of the Central Valley Community Foundation and former mayor of Fresno. She says the investment totals to $58 billion over the next 20 years, and she hopes it'll greatly impact the local economy.
A thriving Sierra San Joaquin region is essential to California's future.
The funding will begin rolling out at the start of the new year, and Newsom plans to be back in the valley next week for another announcement. For KVPR News, I'm Esther Quintanilla.
The auto supply company Advance Auto Parts is shutting down more than 700 stores nationwide. They're also closing a distribution center in Bakersfield. The closures at that center are expected to affect around 66 employees. The announcement was made after the company reported low earnings. Republican incumbent David Valadao clinched a victory in his Central California district last week. He was one of just 2 Republicans who voted to impeach President-elect Donald Trump in 2021 and get reelected. KVPR's Joshua Yeager reports on how that decision could impact Valadao's future in Congress.
The Republican Central Valley District counts more registered Democrats than voters from his own party. But that hasn't stopped David Valadao from representing the region in Congress for more than a decade. Many voters say it's because he avoids ideological extremes. One example, his choice to impeach Trump for inciting an insurrection. With Trump now heading back to the White House, it's unclear if that decision could come back to haunt him.
I do think that Trump sort of relishes making people bend the knee for him.
Michael Alt is a political science professor at CSU Bakersfield and says Trump should actually be grateful. Valadao is helping Republicans hold on to power in a deeply divided U.S. House. For KVPR News, I'm Joshua Yeager in Bakersfield.
New data shows that almond acreage in California continues to drop. But if you're nuts for almonds, don't worry. KVPR's Carrie Klein reports that 1.5 million acres of the trees remain.
Overall, almonds were planted on 40,000 fewer acres this year compared to last year. That's according to a new report commissioned by the Almond Board of California. But those numbers are nuanced. The acres of harvestable trees, known as almond-bearing acres, actually increased. The drop was found in non-bearing acres, essentially baby trees that haven't yet reached maturity. The total also includes thousands of acres of trees considered either stressed or abandoned. From an industry perspective, a drop in supply could be a good thing. It may help drive up wholesale prices that had been historically low and had farmers hurting. The Almond Board reports that global demand for almonds also remains high. For KVPR News, I'm Carrie Klein.
In recent years, California community colleges have faced a wave of free speech challenges by conservative students and faculty. Newsroom partner Cal Matters reports at least 7 lawsuits have been filed since 2020. At least 2 of those are centered at campuses here in the Valley. A case at Madera Community College involved a professor who used controversial pronouns at an event about personal gender pronouns. The professor was disciplined by the college, but he later sued the community college district. The case is still pending in federal court.
Support for Central Valley Daily comes from Fresno Mazda, part of the Prieto Automotive family, with special holiday financing deals on select models through the end of the year at the new showroom on Blackstone and Barstow. Information at myfresnomazda.com.
And now to our main story. A storm known as a bomb cyclone hit the Pacific Northwest earlier this week. The biggest impacts were seen in Washington state, where many experienced strong winds and rain. As of Friday morning, over 180,000 customers in Washington were still without power. But while that storm has diminished, it is boosting the strength of another storm that's much closer to us. A large band of moisture, known as an atmospheric river, will drench much of Northern California. This is the first major rainstorm of the season. Our producer, Jonathan Linden, spoke with David Spector. He's a meteorologist with the National Weather Service office in Hanford. Spector shared the significance of the storms, like the bomb cyclone.
This is a very strong storm that's off the Pacific Northwest coast. You only get a storm like this in terms of strength or intensity every 10 years or so. This is a really strong storm. And what it is it's pulling up an atmospheric river, which is actually from the remains of a typhoon that hit, I think, Taiwan about a week to a week and a half ago. And it's spreading that moisture now into Northern California, looking at the current satellite. And they're getting more rain than we're getting. And that moisture band's going to push southward as that large low pushes inland. So that moisture band's going to come in, it looks like late Friday night into our area, and bring us a good dose of precipitation on Saturday morning through Saturday evening. And we are expecting quite a bit of precipitation from this. This is going to be a pretty significant rain event. Snow levels are going to be high. We're looking at probably above 8,000 feet for most of this event, lowering to about 7,000 feet by Saturday night.
Yeah, and bomb cyclone is definitely a dramatic name. I've read some online comments of people saying it's a bit of a over dramatic name. Should this storm be viewed simply as a extra rainy storm, or is there a reason for us to be more alert when there's a bomb cyclone in the forecast?
Yeah, it's going to be more significant to those in areas to our north, where they're not only going to get more rain. We're going to have our biggest rain event in quite some time. It looks like at least since February. But areas to our north are not only going to get a lot more rain than we are, but they're going to get strong, destructive winds too.
So yeah, you've kind of mentioned this already, but can you speak more to how this storm has impacted the Pacific Northwest so far? And it seems like from what you're saying, it won't be as severe here in the Central Valley.
Correct. It will not be as severe here. It has already been... I've seen reports of 7 inches of rain in the North Bay.
And that's significant for the amount of time that it happened in, right? Or
correct, since Tuesday.
And so outside of this storm, David, how are things looking like for the rest of this fall and this upcoming winter weather-wise?
Weather-wise, it's looking like we're going to have another storm follow on Monday. This one doesn't look as strong. Looks more like a typical winter storm for us, but we're going to keep the winter weather highlights going through Tuesday because of the second storm that's coming behind it. It will have slightly lower snow levels. Looks like it's going to be about 6,500 feet for a lot of that one. So it will be a little cooler, but not as wet. But after that, it looks like we will be trending drier. That's what the operational models are saying. Our 6 to 10 day outlook is showing near normal precipitation, and our 8 to 14 day outlook is actually showing below normal precipitation.
And I've read that a La Nina weather pattern could develop either this month or next or early next year?
Yes, and that basically would favor what we've been having for much of this fall, a split flow. And when we have that, the Pacific Northwest often gets hit with a lot of rain. And then northern Baja gets hit with a lot of rain because they get the tropical moisture, and we kind of get left out because we're in between.
And La Nina means that it will be more dry, correct?
Yeah, it tends to be more dry for us because the waters off the California coast are a little cooler.
That was our producer, Jonathan Linden, speaking with National Weather Service meteorologist David Spector. According to estimates by the Weather Service, rain-wise, the South Valley, like Bakersfield, is expected to get little to no rain today, while northern parts, like Merced, could potentially see a 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches of rain. And that does it for today. If you have a story idea or feedback for the show, we would love to hear from you. Just email us at podcast@kvpr.org. Today's episode was produced by Jonathan Linden and KVPR, with support from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. Find the latest local news anytime at kvpr.org.
No matter what happens in Washington, the NPR Politics Podcast is here for you. For the latest news, insights, and analysis from the election and beyond, listen to the NPR Politics Podcast.